Welcome, everybody, back to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. We're grateful to be a resource for anybody in any fellowship, addiction, affliction, place in life that you're just struggling and looking for a solution. This is the place for you. And the Big Book is a fantastic resource to help you through any of those problems, addictions, and afflictions, no matter if you identify as an alcoholic or not. I'm Justin B. I'm a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in miraculous recovery, and I'm excited and blessed to be around this roundtable again with my good friends and trudge buddies on this road of happy destiny, Nikki M. and David G. Nikki, why don't you come off mute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on in your life, and then we'll go to David.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member and a spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. What's happening recently is I've been through a little bit of a dark spot, and you know what? I'm grateful because page 8, we read it at the beginning of this project, is that it's very dark before the dawn, and I'm experiencing miracles, and these two gentlemen across from me really inspired me through that dark spot. So I just want to thank you. I'm excited and want to do this work and be present. Thank you.
Awesome, David. Awesome, Nikki. David, you're up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for your service as always. Nikki, thank you for being here today. I'm David G. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts from Oklahoma. A lot going on in my life today, a lot of recovery, man. I'm diving deep into the original Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm correlating it with this book, and I'm seeing how recovery has always been and will always be. And it's just a beautiful thing, helping a lot of people. I have a lot of speaking events coming up. I've got some workshops coming up here pretty soon. Man, there's just a lot going on. You know, people that tell me, oh, recovery is boring. Well, you're not in recovery. You're just in sobriety. Come run with some of us for a while. We'll put you to work. Promise. So thank you, bud.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Recovery's boring. Well, then you're not in recovery. You're in sobriety. You know, I'm sober because of what I don't do, but I'm recovered because of what I do, and doing is exciting. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Today, we're going to continue our deep dive into the chapter Into Action. This is part 4 of our series in this chapter. We'll be covering pages 75, starting at returning home. After we've just read through the step 5 promises, we're now going to go into the next portion here, and we will read through page 76, the paragraph that ends with, we have then completed step 7. So we're going to be jumping through the end of step 5 into steps 6 and 7 and covering both of these in this recording. They only cover a couple of paragraphs, but man, are they deep. But we're going to dive deep into it. So grab your big book, 4th edition, turn to page 75, follow along, highlight, take notes, whatever it is you do here to apply these principles. Here we go. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. All right, there's our reading, and there's a lot in there, but and I love how it's, well, I don't know how much I love it, but it's so compressed into just a few paragraphs. So, Nikki, why don't you take us through those few paragraphs and share with us some of the insights and things that you have there?
Well, you're right. This is a lot. So I'm just gonna see where God takes me on this. So, we've just completed these first 5 proposals, right? So we return home. And this is after hearing your 5th step. You have to find a place where you can be quiet for an hour. That means meditate. That means you're gonna meditate and reflect on what you have done on these 5 columns you've written, on these decisions you're making. You're going to look and see how futile, fatal, and destructive living in this column 4, living in self-will is. Okay, so I have my sponsees do that, and you're going to review what we have done. And that's my recap. I usually have my sponsees, can you recap steps 1 through 5? And I don't want you reciting page 59. You do that in meetings for 12 years, reading the steps. What did you learn? Step 1, you learned you're sick. You learned you can't differentiate the true from the false. You learned that you need a psychic change almost every day, that you're beyond human aid, and that you've lost everything. I want to hear these things. Step 2, what you learned, that lack of power is your dilemma, not the bottle, not your mommy. It's lack of power, and that you find this power deep down inside of you. What did you learn in step 3? That you've got to quit playing God and make a sincere decision to what? Abandon yourself. What did you learn in step 4? That you're doing a moral inventory. I don't need all the in and outs. I need a moral inventory of yourself. Why did you do what you did? And then we just did your 5th step. You talk to the right person. So I have them recap what we're doing here and make sure they understand. And then I love this. And I don't do this every day. I need to do it more. Thank God from the bottom of my heart that I know this power, which means I know myself better. And I take this book down from my shelf, or you take it down. Mine's right at the foot of my bed here. And again, carefully reading the first 5 proposals and this is every day. And did you omit anything? Is anything left out? Because here it is. You want to walk a free person, free woman, free man, free child of God. Is your work solid so far? And if I just hear them recapping, I'm powerless over, I need to make a decision. No. What did you learn? Because you've been repeating that in your sobriety for 13 years and you're ready to blow your head off. I sponsor a lot of dry drunks, okay? A lot of people who've been in the rooms and don't know what their book says. So yeah, we've recapped and your work is solid. Are the stones, steps 1 through 5, properly in place? Yes, they are. Have you skimped on the cement? Okay, now put into the foundation. Remember, it's 2025. A lot of these kids think you can buy a prefabbed Elon Musk house. They don't understand that if you do not have cement in your foundation, well, Jimi Hendrix wrote a song about it. Castles in the sand fall into the sea eventually. I love to just throw out the music tips for fun with my sponsees. Like, is this a solid foundation? Have you tried to make mortar without sand? Again, I have to explain, if you don't put sand in the mortar, it's just water and everything's going to crumble. So can you answer these to not to mommy's satisfaction, not to me, not to daddy, but to you, right? And now let's look at step 6, which is we're entirely ready to have God. Nikki, I hate God. We've done that terms exercises with David. I had God. They don't know what God is. So what I say like this, are you ready to let humility remove your arrogance? Are you ready to let being polite remove your rudeness? Are you ready to let this trust of doing this program remove your suspicion? Gratitude will remove your envying. Being helpful will remove your selfishness. Being intimate, looking at me in the eyes when I speak to you, madam, sir, will remove your lust. Like, wake them up, because everyone's sitting around going, I need God to remove this. You got to take action. Look at the title page, Into Action. Okay, into action. And it says, we have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Oh, I live in Toronto, Canada. You can go anywhere and get, I don't care what you want prescribed. You can get pot, alcohol dispensed. You can get, here you can get methadone. You can get sex workers dispensed from anywhere. You can't get willingness. This is an inside job. I have to be willing to do this. Are you now ready to let the spiritual principles remove from you all the things, all those defects of character, all those blocks, all those liabilities, the bondage of self? Are you ready to let all these things, right, be removed, which you've admitted are objectionable? And then I ask them, do you see how futile, fatal, and destructive living in your defects? They always say yes. And then, can he, God, this power? Nikki, I don't know what to do. Listen, if you are helpful, that will remove your selfishness. You know, can these spiritual principles, can God now, this moment, fast take them all, which is no half measures, every single one of them? And usually they say yes, right? And then it says, if we still cling to something, I can't do that, Nikki. I hate him. Do you know what he did to me? Yeah. Well, congratulations. When you argue for your character defects, madam, keep them. That's how that goes. Sir, you don't like it? Let me know how that works out for you, because I'm sitting here free as a bird. Show your sponsees. If you cling to something that you won't let go, here's your step 6 prayer for willingness. It says, ask God. It doesn't say call your sponsor. It says, ask God to help you be willing. There's the willingness. And a lot of the time I write this for my sponsees. What does this mean in step 6? It means stop doing the things you want to do. It's that simple. Stop watching the porn and turn on some type of meditation. Stop going to that place where you're tempted and start going to volunteer at your local community center. I mean, this is radical. Stop. Nikki, I'm waiting for God to remove it. I've read Drop the Rock 7 times. What action are you taking, sir, madam? What action are you doing? Stop doing the things you want to do. Then let's read this. Step 7, get humble. And what do you have to do when you're humble? You have to start doing the things you don't want to do. Start doing the things you don't want to do. So when you're ready, you say this: my creator, I am now, this minute, willing, right? Willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I'm willing, God, that you should take my arrogance, my jealousy, my intolerance, my greed, my lust, my hate, my procrastination, my fear, my irresponsibility, my gossip, my slander, and then take my humility and take my love and take my tolerance and my acceptance and my active and my zeal and my patience and my courage and my faith. Have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now fast remove from me every single defect of character that stands in the way of my usefulness. This fear is standing in my usefulness, God. I can't do anything. Remove it now. Right? So usefulness to you and my fellows, so I can grant me strength, God, so I can go from here to do your bidding. What's God's business? What's the bidding? Doing God's business. What's the bidding? I am in the business of God. I am fired. God is hired. Nikki, I can't do that. Ask God. Don't call me. Ask God. Ask being responsible to help you get out of bed and do the next right thing. Everybody, start with making your bed. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Nikki. Lots of energy, and I really appreciate it. I got a few things written down here, and I think I've already got my takeaway from this. But let's see what David has for us from these few paragraphs.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nikki. I just love hearing you share. My little sister in the fellowship, my soul sister in the big book. I love you. So, returning home. Yeah. We find a place. Man, that's a sacred place. This is holy ground. Take your sandals off. I've done this in my sweat ceremonies. Don't come in here like that. We're going to smudge you before you walk in here. We want to get rid of the hitchhikers, the fear, the resentment, the self-doubt, the worry. This is a holy place. Find this place, our book is saying right here. Return home and find a place where you can be quiet. We're talking about within, not just so it's quiet around me on the outside. And we're going to do this for an hour, roughly. Key word right here, carefully review what you've done. What have you done? Well, you've done the first 4 steps as outlined in the Big Book, or the first 5 steps, excuse me. And now we're going to carefully review that. We thank God. Anytime I see that, that's a prayer from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Now, if you guys remember in the 3rd column of step 4 in the resentment part of the inventory, when we got to that 3rd column, there were some certain questions that I asked. When you see that your self-esteem has been affected, your pride has been affected, your ambition, your security, your pocketbook, your personal and sex relations, one of the things we did is we looked at how. We didn't just write that down and breeze on through it. We looked at how they had been. So the question that was asked back then was, what do I do, or what did I do every time that one of these are effective? What do I do? Do I bully? Do I isolate? Do I attack? Do I pout? Do I lust? Do I watch pornography to get a little relief? What do I do? Well, those are the things you're bringing here now. That's your 6th step work, because that stuff is revealed right there. Now, if you just write down pride and just keep on buzzing through that, no, you're not going to see any of that. By the time you get to here, hell, you don't have any idea what you're bringing to the table. But you're bringing the behaviors, the attitudes, the concepts, the beliefs that have beat us for years and years and years. That's what you're bringing here. So carefully review what you've done. Thank God from the bottom of your heart that you know Him better, because now you do. You know what's defeated you. It hasn't been him. It hasn't been me. It hasn't been us. It hasn't been her. It's been self. So take the book down from the shelf, turn to the page, which contains the 12 steps. And if you'll look over to page 59, that's the page that contains it. So once I look over there, what am I going to do? I'm going to carefully read the first 5 proposals. In other words, steps. I'm going to look at step 1 on page 59 and say, I've admitted that I'm powerless. My life is unmanageable. I'm going to ask myself this question: God, did I miss anything right there? And I'm going to sit quietly for a few minutes. I'm not just going, okay, no, move on. No, I'm going to sit quiet like it says here. Nothing comes up, I'm going to move on. If something comes up, I'm going to jot it down, because I'm going to talk to my sponsor after this is over. Step 2, did I miss anything, God? Step 3, did I miss anything? 4, did I miss it? 5, is there something that I didn't tell? You know, I really rather would have not told that. I didn't tell it then, but I've got another chance now. Can I do it here? Carefully review what you've done. So notice that word carefully shows up again, reading the first 5 proposals. He don't like to repeat words, but he repeats it right here, and he's saying, carefully do this. Be careful. And here's why: because we're building that ark that we shall walk a free man at last. Are you tired of getting beat up emotionally in these rooms after so many years, going through the steps over and over and over, and relapsing into lust and sex addiction and food addiction? And, you know, I mean, are you tired? If you're not, go get some more. I mean, we encourage you to do that. But if you're looking to be a free man at last, this work is going to have to be solid. Is it so far? So far, that means there's more, right? Are the stones properly in place? If you'll hold your place right here and just flip back to page 47 for just a second. Let's look at the first stone he's asking me to consider here. Middle of the page, I need to ask myself but one short question: do I now believe, and willing to believe, that in a power greater than self? As soon as a man can say he does believe or is willing, we emphatically assure him he's on his way. It's been repeatedly proven among us that up on this simple cornerstone. Now that's your arch. I have a profile that has this arch and what that looks like and all that stuff. I can get that to Justin to send out if he'd like, and he may already have it. But anyway, don't miss this. These cornerstones in your arch is going to support the rest of that arch through these steps. And I promise you, if that's not in place, that thing's going to come crumbling down. Well, that's a symbolic of our life here. I don't know about you. I'm tired of that arch falling down. I want it strong. So step 2 is going to have to be in place. That's one of the stones. Let's look at the next stone he's asking me to. If you will go to page 63 of the book and drop to the very bottom paragraph of the page. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Remember. Next, we decided, this is our decision, not the prayer on 63 right here. We're going to decide that in this drama of life, God's going to be the director. He's the principal, we're the agent. He's the father, we're the children. Most good ideas are simple, but this concept is a keystone. Here's the other stone that he's asking us about over here on page 75. Is that third step in place? Have you made a covenant with God as best you can? Are you living up to that? Are you walking more and more away from self? Are you listening for the voice of self versus the voice of God? Have you learned how to do that in your recovery? Because in our fourth step, we were shown how to do that twice. And in step 11, we're going to see it again. So, are those stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Now, remember, that's the foundation step. And it's, that is helping others. So, we really, really need to take a close look at this, because if we don't, then I promise you, it's just gonna continue on and on. So these are a series of questions during this hour that we really, really need to take a close look at. Have we tried to make mortar without sand? I asked this question. Are you going to meetings and not practicing the program of recovery, running around talking about how sober you are? Are you trying to work the steps and you're skimping out on some meetings? If you are, then you're using mortar without sand, and I promise you that's not going to be very powerful. But if you look at the word cement and you come back to page 17 for just a second, there was a very important question asked to us in the very bottom paragraph. If you'll go up from the very bottom paragraph, about 3 sentences, it says, the feeling of having shared in the common peril, we're talking about the fellowship. That's only one element in this powerful cement. Now, if you're only trying to use the fellowship, just go to meetings and don't drink, let me know how that works out for you. Because if it works out good, hey, man, I'm all for you. But if you're like me, you're probably going to fall. Why? I've tried to make mortar without sand, and for me, it just don't work. So top of 76, if I can answer to my satisfaction, we're talking about that hour review there. That list of questions we just went through, if I can answer those to my satisfaction, then we're going to look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Everything that I've discussed in step 5 up to this point has taken a willingness. Trust me, that's indispensable. Get dishonest, get secretive, go back. Yeah. Don't tell everything. Watch what happens. Are you now ready to let God remove from us all things which we have admitted in our 5th step that was objectionable? I run around all the time asking, God, protect me. God, protect me. I want my spirit to protect me. What about me protecting my spirit? There's some things that I need to do to make sure that my spirit is protected. Don't tell me I can't do those things. I promise you I can. There's places I don't need to go today. There's people I don't need to talk to today. There's places I don't need to hang out. There's conversations I don't need to be in. And by me not participating in that, that's helping my spirit to help me. Yeah, this is a two-way street, not just one. Can he now take them all, every one? How big is this God you've been telling me about all the way through these first 5 steps? I've been hearing how big this God is. Well, let's see now, because now you're going to put it to the test. And if you cling to something you won't let go, don't worry about that. Here's your 6-step prayer. We hear about 7-step prayer, 3rd-step prayer, all these prayers, but this is a prayer. We ask God. Anytime you see those words, that's a prayer. And it's in our 6-step direction. So this is our 6-step prayer. God, help me be willing. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to stay hung up in step 6 and we can't move you on. No, we're going to move you on, but you're going to say this prayer every single day. God, help me be willing. Give me the willingness to become willing. Give me the willingness to become willing. And when you're ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I'm now willing. You should have all of me, the good and the bad. You see, the good runs me away from God and the bad runs me to him. See, my idea of what good and bad is isn't what good and bad is, because my idea has been based on self. I pray that you now, not after a while or here in a little bit, remove from me every single defective character. Look at these key words closely, which stand in the way. He ain't going to take them all, every one. I promise you. There's things that he's going to use out of my bitterness, out of my ugliness, out of my lustfulness to help someone else. But the things are going to stand in the way is my hate for you, me wanting to hurt you, me wanting to get revenge on you. Those are the things that are going to be moved out of the way. Why? So that I can be useful to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength. I'm powerless, man. I don't have power here. I need strength. Grant me strength. That's a prayer. Don't forget, this is all about prayer. As we go out from here to do your bidding and look at this word, amen. There was no amen at the end of step 3. Now there's one here. So it says this in this last sentence. We have then completed step 7. Where I come from, they say you don't ever complete the steps. Steps are never completed. That's not what that sentence says. But how I look at that now is what's going to tell the difference. You see, I'm not saying I've completed this. I don't never need to come back. What I'm saying is I have completed now a body of work between step 3 and step 7, which was done through prayer and action. And had it not been, then I've wasted a whole lot of time. Anytime that you close out a prayer in the spiritual world, it always ends with amen. It didn't end at step 3 because we had a lot of work to do. We've done that work now. Now I'm going to close that prayer out. Amen. Then I've completed a body of work between 3 and 7. Now I have a whole lot better idea of who I've become based on a narrative that lived within called self. Now I need more action. So powerful stuff here, man. We just continue moving along. So Justin, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. All right, question for you first, Nikki. You know, you said in your share, and I've heard you say this many times before, I need to stop doing that which I want to do and do the things which I don't want to do. And as we've gone through this roundtable, we've talked a lot about the self and identifying self's will and everything like that. Talk to us a little bit more about the importance of that concept of not doing the things that the self wants to do and doing the things that the self may be resistant to.
Oh, that's a great question, Justin. Just thank you, David. And if everybody's listening going, David does things, it's like he's been here almost, 30 years. I think we just celebrated with him. So this is not an overnight matter. Stay, everybody. I'm learning so much. Back to this question. People sit and just do this. I'm asking God to remove. But they're not, again, read the title of this chapter. They're not into action. Like this is an action-based program. And I've seen it over the years because you and I have been here over a decade, Justin. And a lot of people are like, I'm asking God for the willingness, or they're reading. It's this knowledge they think they'll acquire. If they get more knowledge, more will be removed. It doesn't say that. It says into action. So I recently had a sponsee, and she said she hated her mother. And I said, okay, you need to stop doing the things you want to do. You want to ignore her. And I said, but she has to, her mother's like 92. Like, this is a miracle. This woman is a miracle. And I said, why don't you start doing the things you don't want to do? Put a rose or a flower on her breakfast, tray when you give it to her. She did. And she called me recently and says, Nikki, I love my mom. Like it was these little actions that you can't even see. Stop doing the things you want to do. This is a couple years ago, I want to blow up the phone of baby daddy number 2. Okay, my son was 17. What did I have to do? I had to start doing the things I don't want to do. I want to send him a text and blame him. What do I do instead? I go and prepare a healthy meal, put my phone away, get to God. How about this? I want to get on my son. What do? I go and find someone to sponsor someone else's son. This is contrary action. This is what this program's about. And you said, how do you do it? Well, it says destruction of self. The book literally says on page 14, this is very simple, everyone. But it's not easy. A price has to be paid. What is that price? The destruction of self. Self wants me to, prime example, I want to throw out my family and move with the man I love to Luxembourg. I have to stop doing the things I want to do. I've done that before. I've thrown out my family for a man. I have to start doing the things I don't want to do, like suit up and show up and not do the things I used to do. I mean, this is really radical. It's called dying of the self, right? Isn't it? Like lust addicts, love addicts. How are you going to get anywhere if you don't stop doing the things you want to do? You want to watch porn. You want to call your mistress. I have a guy, he gave in to the mistress. He came on the noodle meeting the other day crying. Heroin he could get rid of. He couldn't get rid of his mistress. He has to stop doing the things he wants to do and start doing the things he doesn't want to do, like not call his mistress, show up for his wife and his kids. You understand there's a price that must be paid. This is not easy, everybody. And that's why many, not a few, pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. It's that simple, Justin.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, Dave. Yeah, it's that simple and that difficult at the same time. I love it. All right, David, question I have for you. I love the ritual, the rites type imagery that you brought this period of quiet, going home and finding a quiet place. You take the sandals off your feet. This is a holy place. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of maybe adding some sort of ritual into some of the things that we do in recovery to make it that much more powerful and important.
Yeah, for me, it's very symbolic of the of the ancient tradition and ways of not being able to approach God without being cleansed. And in these first 5 steps, that's exactly what we have done. We have cleansed ourselves now to prepare ourselves to come into a holy place or a place of wholeness, to where we can not only talk to this power, but feel like we're connected and receive and have this power talk back to us. So for me, one of the things that I do is smudge. It's a very sacred practice of my traditional native ways, and that's something that I've used continuously to do that. Another thing is to smoke organic tobacco in my pipe. That's something that I do. I'm not a smoker anymore. I was for many years. At first, I was afraid to do that, but if I'm doing it for symbolic purposes to cleanse myself, to come before the Creator, I've found no addictiveness in that, thank God. And so, in fact, I've done that for somebody here as I prayed over them not too long ago, and it's a very powerful way. It sounds like some of them prayers may have been answered. That's pretty cool. But anyway, to answer your question, Justin, for me, and not everybody has to do this. Our book doesn't say to do that. But anytime that I come before the Creator, I need to humble myself. I need to make sure as best that I can for me, maybe not for him, but for me, that I'm cleansed. If I've got any secrets that I haven't told my sponsor of my life, I need to go clean that up and then come back and fall into the presence of prayer and watch the difference of how that makes in the conscious contact. So the place is very holy for me. Anytime that I enter a place that I'm getting ready to meet with the Creator in prayer, nowadays I really try to do that on my knees, and also try to make sure that I'm cleansed, not only outwardly through the smudging and the other stuff I described, but inwardly. If I got any secrets that I've held on to, or there's some things that I haven't really told, or they're an offense against my brother, because if there is, I need to go away from that altar, that holy place, try to make that right, then come back and do that. Watch the difference in how that is in conscious contact. For me, it's been very sacred. And step 6, returning home, finding a place. Finding a place. Hell, I got a place. Why do I need to find a place? I need to find a place that's sacred, holy, because I'm fixing to go into an hour of conscious contact with this Creator. And I'm asking questions not only for me to say, but for Him to speak back to me. That's how I know about page 47. That's how I know about page 63. He revealed those things to me in the 6th step. So that's kind of my experience with that.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. That's really good. God has a perfect timing is what it is. To close out for my insight, I'm going to share what I wrote this morning for my journal entry this morning in this because it's just so interesting. Got up this morning with my alarm, got going with my routine, had a sponsee call that was good for me today. I was resistant when the text came in to have the call, but I'm grateful I did it. I'll be recording the Big Book Roundtable podcast here in about 15 minutes. I have some resistance to doing this also, So I know I need to really be present with that. I'm feeling a lot of resistance today. My two-way prayer was even something that I was resistant to ask, and there was a fairly long period of pause of nothing coming because of that resistance. So I need to be aware of the resistance and ask God for the power to move through resistance as I encounter it throughout the day. That's one thing that I've learned in recovery, that oftentimes when I am resistant to doing something, that is the very thing I need to be doing. So very interesting how this just kind of worked out, quote unquote, worked out that this was our conversation today. And I love how God just brings all of these things so that the lesson can be learned from me. And I'm grateful to be able to share a little bit of that with you and those who may be listening. Nikki, what's a takeaway that you have from our conversation today?
Ask God, ask humility, ask respectfulness, ask gratitude, ask honesty, ask acceptance, ask forgiveness and love. Just ask God. I love you guys.
Thank you, Nikki. David, how about you? A takeaway?
Yeah, take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground. Your sandals may be resentment. It may be fear. It may be disconnect. It may be anything but a conscious contact. It may be, something that you've got against your brother. You may be a little angry at your wife or your girlfriend or your man, something that he said or that he may have did that didn't sit well. Try to take off your sandal. In other words, take that off before you come into this holy place. I promise you the experience here to be had is unbelievable. It's recovery, y'all. It's not only recovering, it's recovered from a hopeless state. So good stuff. Thank you guys for the roundtable today. It's been beautiful.
Awesome. Beautiful. Great conversation. Everybody, I hope that you are finding peace, answers, insights that you are putting into action as you are going through this this journey in the Big Book with us. And if you find something that is very powerful, come back to it, share it with others, because I found that once I learn something, if I don't do something about it, if I don't share it with somebody, it's gone and it doesn't do me or anybody else any good. So let's put this stuff into action, as this chapter is entitled. Keep coming back, come all the way in, sit all the way down, stay, work it. You are worth it.